Hello, everyone. So I usually don't do, or at least I don't think, I haven't really done two videos in a row before, so like 2 days in a row uploading content. So this is just kind of spur of the moment. It usually doesn't happen, but I was thinking today and I wanted to talk about something about coping skills, actually, and I just thought maybe it would be good to make a video. So again, this doesn't happen all the time, but hopefully this video is helpful to you guys. Yeah, and so welcome to the channel for those who are new, and for those who have been following me for a little bit. This is the Schizophrenic Honest Update channel. This is video 8 or vlog 8 of the series or channel or whatever you want to call it. And hopefully, if you're new, maybe watch the other videos if they pique your interest. I've talked about the importance of faith in my recovery. I've just talked about symptoms that I have experienced over the years. In previous videos, I talked about my history when it comes to schizophrenia. And so, yeah, I've talked quite a bit on different subjects in the past videos, so check them out. Let's see, what else? So, for those who don't know me, my name is Steven, and I was diagnosed with schizophrenia in college. So it's coming on about 15 years ago. Or roughly, I think. 15 years ago since I was in college, doing my bachelor's anyways. But freshman, sophomore year was when I was officially diagnosed. Freshman, sophomore year is when I was officially diagnosed with schizophrenia. And I've had it ever since. So, like I said, my name's Steven. I have schizophrenia, and I am 33 years old. I think I'm 33 years old. I think I'm turning 34. I think so. And I live in St. Cloud, Minnesota right now. St. Cloud is, I think, like an hour. I can't speak today. I'm sorry, guys. St. Cloud is about an hour or an hour and a half away from Minneapolis, St. Paul. So that's kind of distance-wise or time-wise. I've been in St. Cloud probably about 5-6 months. Before that, I was living in Alaska for a couple years. So I've moved around quite a bit. I've been all over the world. I was teaching English in Thailand, Indonesia, Yemen. I've traveled to other countries as well. Studied abroad in South Africa. So I've been around. Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit about me. I do want to quickly warn people, or not warn people, but kind of just before we get into coping skills, or at least my history when it comes to utilizing coping skills to feel better, to feel stable, when it comes to me utilizing coping skills to combat my schizophrenia symptoms. Before we discuss all of that, I first would like to just mention that today I've been struggling a little bit. I would say, in terms of level, probably the same amount as yesterday. Yesterday, I was struggling. I don't even like the word struggle, but yesterday I was experiencing a visual hallucination that has been following me ever since high school. It's a person that I visually hallucinate quite often named Skylar, who talks to me nonstop, is vulgar, combative, psycho, manipulative. I think that's the word, right? Manipulative. She's just not a good person. So I yesterday was hallucinating her throughout the day. I was getting through it. I utilized coping skills. I was reading the Bible. I was praying, listening to music, a little bit of country music as well as Christian music. I went to Starbucks and kind of was enjoying my strawberry lemonade. And so I was trying to cope. Tomorrow's church, so I'm excited for that. But so we don't get distracted. And I'm sorry for this video if I get distracted. My apologies. But yeah, that was yesterday. I was experiencing a visual hallucination that was giving me a little bit of trouble, but I got through it. Today, I would say throughout the majority of the day, I've been having some issue with a specific delusion. When it comes to delusions or being delusional or having a delusional episode or however way you want to say it, I think it's delusional episode or episode of delusion. I forgot how. I don't know how you properly say it. I don't know how you properly say it, but today, when it comes to what I've been experiencing, like I said, I've been having a specific delusion that impacted me quite a bit today. It started in the morning to where when I woke up this morning, I had this fixed belief. That I was being told and commanded to send money to a specific person through Cash App, because it had to do with a top secret mission that the CIA was giving me. Normally with delusions, I don't usually have delusions, I would say often. Usually, in my experience, I've struggled more with paranoia than delusions, but I've had both. But this is not new, but it's been a while since I've had a delusion that's caused this, not this much of a problem, but has caused me to slip a little bit. But like I said, the delusion started in the morning when I woke up, to where I had this stupid fixed belief that I had to send money to a specific person through Cash App because it was for a top secret mission by the CIA. Throughout the day, my brain was fixated on it. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept wondering who it was, why the CIA wanted me to send this money. Like, it was a fixed false belief that I thought was real, or that I thought was true, throughout the whole day. So I was fixated on it. I just kept going back to it throughout the whole day, which is kind of not strange, but even though I was delusional today and still have a bit of the delusion right now that I'm struggling with, but even though I've been struggling with this delusion all day, I can't speak. Even though I've been struggling with this delusion all day, I still was able to write some poetry, or I guess it's a short story, but also poetry, but I was able to write a little bit on my blog. I was able to write a short story / poem, despite being delusional. I don't know how I did it or how I was able to do it, but it happened. I'm going to probably be reading what I wrote in this video as well. But yeah, I had this fixed delusion all day, and what eventually happened that I found out later, because it's hard to explain. The delusion was so real to me that I accepted it and thought it was true, that I sent $100 to a random person via Cash App, and I did it while at Starbucks, while writing whatever I wrote on my WordPress, and then my mind, I don't know if my mind forgot about it or ignored it, or just didn't want me to realize what I was doing. Like, I don't know if it was an I don't know if it was an I can't speak. I don't know if it was an out-of-body experience. Like, in the moment of my delusion, in the morning as well as afternoon, like I felt like I had control. Like when I ordered my strawberry lemonade and oatmeal, when I sat down, like I felt like it was me. I felt like I made those choices, but I guess not, because I was delusional and I sent $100 to a random person that I don't know, and then it kind of just went to the back of my mind, and I apparently started writing whatever I wrote, and then time passed. I came home, and when I came home when I came home about an hour and a half ago, 2 hours ago, that's when I checked my bank account. That's when I checked my Wells Fargo, and I was like, holy crap, I'm missing $100. Where did it go? And that's how I found out that my Wells Fargo showed a transaction for Cash App to this person for $100, and then I checked my Cash App and I verified in Cash App that that's what happened. So that's just what happened today. And so for the delusion, it was not severe, but it was 100% believable, or fixed belief, or whatever you want to say. I believed it 100% in the morning and this afternoon. This evening now, I would say it's about 50% in terms of me realizing it's a delusion, but like a part of me still is hanging on to the belief that yes, the CIA wanted me to send the money. Like a part of me, 50% of me is like, yeah, that's what happened. But then a part of my brain is like, why are you believing that? It's stupid. Like, that's not what happened. That's like, you just sent money to a random person and now they're $100 richer. Like, my brain's split. So I don't know which one to believe. I know which one to believe. Here's the thing. I know which one to believe, but I'm having trouble realizing that it definitely was just a stupid mistake and choice I made. I don't know if that makes sense, guys, but that's just what I've been struggling with today. Yeah. But let's kind of get into coping skills, why don't we? For those who are new to my channel, and for those who aren't, well, at least for those who aren't new to my channel, you know I've smoked in some of my videos in the past. That's what I'm going to be doing today. So for those who are new, I'm going to be smoking. So to you guys, anyways, I'm going to be smoking. Part of me... part of me is, I know, not part of me, 100% I know I'm smoking because it tends to calm my nerves. Smoking cigarettes, I've tried vaping and it's not the same. Smoking cigarettes tend to ease my mind, calm me a little bit. In the past, smoking has not alleviated completely, but has made my delusions a little bit less intense, to where I'm able to realize they're full of crap, like they're false. So that's partly why I'm smoking. So just so you guys know. But yeah, coping skills, let's get into it. So coping skills, my history of it, or my history of utilizing coping skills, has been up and down. I realize that coping skills can be positive or negative. I don't know if people like to admit that, but anything can be a coping skill. For some people, drinking is a coping skill. Whether it's they're married and they're having marriage issues, whether even if they're not married and they're boyfriend or girlfriend, or if they're partners or in a romantic relationship. You know, when people are in school and they have to study, or they're having trouble studying, you know, when people are just going through a depressive episode or anxiety, a lot of people drink, for example. That's a coping skill that, for me, can be positive or negative. Like, you can abuse drinking, you can abuse smoking, like, you can abuse drugs, but it depends if you abuse it or not. So, when it comes to coping skills, they can be positive or negative. That's what I'm saying, or trying to say. Drinking is one of them, to where as long as you drink the right amount, and you don't get drunk or black out, like if you drink enough just to get a little tipsy and it makes you feel better, great. Smoking, the same thing. Tobacco, cigarettes, to me, it's not really positive or negative. It just kind of depends if you abuse it or not. For those who vape, I guess the same thing. But yeah, that's coping skills for me, is that they can either be positive or negative. But when it comes to me learning coping skills and applying them to my life, I'm kind of going to go through a chronological history of me and age. The smoke went in my eye. Oh my god. I'm going to go through coping skills when it comes to just my development of age, and when it comes to my struggle with schizophrenia. So let's start with high school. When it comes to high school, I had the sense and understanding that coping skills were good, like that they were needed, but I put no effort whatsoever to developing coping skills. Like, in high school, my adopted parents put me through therapy. Medication kind of was off and on. I remember taking some medication, but anyways, like, I had learned some coping skills from therapy. In high school, we had a couple different science classes, or mental health classes, psychology, whatever you want to say it. We had a few classes that talked about coping skills. I had a few teachers in high school who tried to teach me a couple of coping skills, even on the side, like just one-on-one. There was two teachers in high school that I remember quite vividly, that I still remember to this day. The first one, his name was Mr. Brennan. His first name was Kevin. I don't know how I found out his first name Kevin, but like, in high school, I remember learning that, and like, he forever became Kevin to me, even though I still called him Mr. Brennan. But Mr. Brennan was, I guess you could say, my language arts teacher or English teacher. But yeah, so I developed a pretty good relationship with Mr. Brennan in terms of just respect and understanding. It got to a point to where occasionally he would ask if I just needed to take a walk outside of class, and he would walk with me, kind of in a circle. The way our school is outlined is a certain part of our school was a square, and so my class was along the square route, and so people were able to kind of walk in that circle square to take a breather. And so Mr. Brennan sometimes would ask if I needed to take a walk with him, and we would just chit-chat about life, about what's going on, how I'm feeling, what I need help with, how he could support me. And when we did this, he would give me pointers in terms of coping skills. And so, like, when it comes to high school, I had people around me who were trying to teach me and help me with coping skills, but I did not utilize them. Instead of me utilizing positive coping skills like mindfulness and, drawing and reading, listening to music, sketching, writing poetry, taking walks, meditation, whatever you want to whatever you can think of, because there's thousands of coping skills. But instead of me doing those good ones, I resorted to high school doing the not so helpful coping skills. So actually, I'm going to take that back a little bit. I had a few coping skills in high school that were good. Let me start there. So there was two that I primarily used to not kill myself in high school. So in high school, I had experienced my first schizophrenia symptoms. I didn't really know back then that it was schizophrenia in high school, but I knew something I just was like, this is trippy, oh my god, what's happening? But then I just never followed up on that question of what's happening. But in high school was when I first started hearing voices, when Skylar, when Skylar, one of my hallucinations, appeared or showed up first. In high school, Skylar, the really just one of my worst hallucinations now, Skylar, now, presently, in high school, she used to be a little bit nicer. Like, she would often ask me how I'm doing, how are things going. She would try to make me feel better, but so I don't know really what changed with that hallucination, but it changed. So, getting back to it, in high school, while I was experiencing auditory hallucinations, sometimes visual, while I was manic, while I had sometimes paranoia and delusions in high school, manic episodes, bouts of depression, while I was experiencing all that in high school, the two coping skills that I primarily used were the two coping skills I primarily used in high school were writing poetry. I did that a lot. Writing. I filled notebooks and journals. Oftentimes I would write in journals at school or in notebooks at school. I didn't really show my adopted parents. I didn't really do it around them. I kind of hid it from them. I kind of hid my journals and stuff from them because I was worried that if my adopted parents read what I wrote in my journals, that they would be like, you are 100% nuts, crazy, like unwell. You need to go to the hospital. And so, like, I was extremely paranoid that if my adopted parents read my journals and notebooks, I would be sent away. So they didn't really know that I was writing a lot like that. But in high school, I used writing poetry, or just writing in general, but mostly it was poetry. I utilized that in high school quite a bit. That made me feel not stable, but it helped me get through a lot of my episodes that I realized later were episodes. But yeah, writing was one of the coping skills I used quite a bit in high school, and then the other one was theater, acting. I was in the theater production group of kids. Talked about in my last video, like one of the plays we did was Alice in Wonderland. And then we did a couple other productions. But I was in the theater group. There was one play/production that I was the costume manager or costume coordinator, so that was my role. It was really fun. Like, I loved the people that I was with. Theater was one of those coping skills that allowed me to get away from everything. It allowed me to focus on costumes and memorization and filling a role in a play to where I could be someone else. So that really was what helped me a lot, is I could pretend not to be me. I could pretend to be someone else. And so those were the two big coping skills in high school that I utilized, was writing and theater. Otherwise, I didn't really have any coping skills other than that in high school. Well, there was a few people I talked to. Like I told you, I talked to Mr. Brennan a lot. And then there was my German teacher. Ooh, my leg. There was my German teacher named Frau Becker. She was my German teacher. all 4 years of high school. So I took German freshman, sophomore, junior year, and senior. I went from beginning German, like 1A, I think it was, all the way to 4A, which is like German 4 honors. What was kind of funny through that, what was ironic or hilarious to me, is that I took German all 4 years of high school, and I can't remember any of it. I was a terrible student in German class. Part of it was I didn't really want to learn German or even a second language. Like, they had Spanish and French, I think, but I took German. But, I didn't want to be there. I didn't even want to be in school. So while I was in German class all 4 years, I barely passed tests and exams. I know Frau Becker was understanding. Frau Becker I talked to quite a lot about life and just my struggles. Sorry guys, I'm repositioning myself. So Frau Becker, I had talked to quite a bit about my struggles. She had an idea of what was going on, mentally a little bit. I told her about the depression. I was talking to her about the anxiety, the mania, a little bit about the voices. So, she kind of knew. And so, yeah, not often, but I would say once or twice a week, I would take my lunch and then go to Frau Becker's classroom. So I would take my lunch and go to my German classroom, and I would sit with Frau Becker and eat my lunch and talk to her. That happened once or twice a week sometimes. And so there was people I talked to, and oftentimes they were adults. I didn't really feel comfortable talking with the students. I'm not sure why. It could have been that I felt like the students were judgmental, that they wouldn't understand, that they would treat me different. I maybe thought that the students would make fun of me if I told them what was going on. So, when it comes to my peers, they had no idea. When it comes to my peers, they probably 100% just thought, oh my god, Steven is frickin' strange and weird. We don't know what's going on. We don't understand. We just know he's strange and weird. And yeah, so that's probably what they thought. I was just that weird kid in high school. But when it comes to adults, I talk to them quite a bit. I felt safer talking to adults. I thought they would understand, and they did. And so, getting back to things, when it comes to coping skills in high school, there was writing, journaling, theater, and then talking to a couple teachers. And just, yeah. Let's see, what else? In terms of positive coping skills in high school, I did, now that I think about it, I did have a peer group that I met with once a week. I went to a Catholic high school. For those who don't know, but my high school was Cretin-Durham Hall. Cretin-Durham Hall is located in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's a Catholic high school. That's where I went to school. Now, despite Cretin-Durham Hall being a Catholic high school, I wouldn't say they were conservative. I wouldn't say they were strict or discriminatory. And I'm saying that because there was a queer student group / club on campus or at school. So at my high school, there was a LGBTQ club or a queer club, a gay club, whatever you want to call it, at my school. And I was a part of that. So once a week, we would meet. There was probably, in the beginning, there was just a few of us. As time went on, there was I remember at most, I think there was like 10 to 15 of us in a room where we met. So once a week I met with the gay club, or queer club. Yeah, and so that was a coping skill or an outlet of mine to where I hung out with people who I thought they were nice. I thought they were friends. I felt safe hanging out with them. I didn't feel judged. I felt like I could be myself in that group. So that was an outlet of mine, a coping skill, meeting once a week with them. We would watch movies, we would watch clips of whatever and talk about what was being discussed in the clip or the movie. Sometimes we would just kind of talk about what's going on at school in our lives, ask for advice. But that's kind of what we did for that group. This isn't about coping skills, what I'm about to say, but it is tied to the queer club or LGBTQ club. In high school, the smoke is in my eyes again. I don't know why, it like stings my eyes. For the LGBTQ club, in high school, in terms of my sexuality, in high school, like, I guess you could say it was a phase of discovery. I was finding out who I was in high school. Like, I would flip-flop so much. Like, one week I would think I'm straight and I'd be like, oh my god, that girl is so hot, oh my god. And then the next week I would think I'm bisexual because I'd be like, oh my god, that boy or guy is cute too. Like, I would go from being straight to liking girls to bisexual to liking girls and boys, and then there was a period to where I thought I was gay and I thought I only liked guys. And then there was a period to where I kind of liked everyone. There were a few non-binary kids in my high school. There was a few trans kids in my high school. And so there was a brief moment where I thought I was pansexual in high school. For those who don't know what that means, Google it. I guess the simplest way I would say it is pansexual. We have the ability or capability, or we are willing to like anyone, more or less. It's more about the person's personality than their gender. But I guess that's the easiest way to put it. But yeah, so that's in terms of my sexuality, because I mentioned the gay club. But yeah, so I kind of went from straight to bisexual to gay to pansexual in high school. But going back to it, I'm getting distracted again. That was another one of my outlets. So in review, there was writing, journaling, writing poetry, theater, talking and being able to talk to my adult, I guess, acquaintances, you could say, or talking to a couple adults that I respected. So there was writing, journaling, poetry, theater, talking to the adults that I respected in high school, and then my LGBTQ club that I met with once a week. Those were my positive coping skills in high school. Yeah. Now for the excuse me. Now for the not so good coping skills in high school, right? Because oh my gosh, it's so fun to talk about. It is. there was a lot of negative coping skills in high school. One of them was self-harm. Definitely not helpful. Completely negative. Self-harm is mentally and physically harmful. Not only physically does it hurt and it sucks and it leaves cuts and scars, but mentally, I did it mentally because I was like, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. These voices suck that I'm hearing, so I'm going to cut myself with the hope that the pain when I cut myself, I feel more than my schizophrenia symptoms. That's really what was my mindset back then. In high school, I was like, I hope me cutting myself hurts more and it takes away I hope cutting myself distracts me from what I'm feeling inside. That's why I cut myself in high school. I cut myself in high school. I primarily did it on my arm and sometimes on my thigh or inner thigh. And so I would often wear long sleeve t-shirts or long sleeve shirts to hide my scars on my arms. Or we had like a school sweater as well, or a school hoodie. I would wear that sometimes. But so it's self-harm in high school, which was one of the stupidest things I could do. Not only was self-harm the wrong thing to do, but it made me feel worse. It left scars, but it didn't make me feel better. I often felt worse afterwards because I was like, why am I doing this? This hurts. And I would be like, oh my gosh, this hurts for a couple minutes. And then I would go back to, mentally, I'd be like, but I still hear the voices and I still am hallucinating. I'm still paranoid and delusional. So I would self-harm, and then 5-10 minutes later, I'd be back to being crazy again. So in high school I self-harmed. That was a negative coping skill. I started smoking in high school. Before I was 18, what I would do is, when my mom would drop me off in the morning at school, I would wait till she leaves and drives away, and then I would go to the convenience store nearby the school. And there was one convenience store a block away that one of the clerks, would let me buy cigarettes from him, and he wouldn't check my ID. And so I would buy cigarettes that way. And then after school, I would go to that same convenience store. And there was a lady who worked there in the afternoon who would again let me buy cigarettes and not check my ID. So there was one convenience store near school that I could buy cigarettes. So I started smoking in high school, which again is a pretty bad coping skill. Not only is it very unhealthy and it blackens your lungs and kills your body, but it's just kids shouldn't be doing it, period. And so there was that. So I had self-harm. I smoked in high school. I did drink and do other drugs. How that would manifest itself is I ran away several times from my adopted parents' house. There was several times to where I had friends outside of school that I hung out with who weren't the best people. They weren't like bad people. Like they weren't bad people. Like they didn't hurt me. They didn't kill anyone. Like they didn't steal. They weren't inherently bad kids, but what would happen is I would hang out with them. We would go back to one of the guys' or one of the girls' house, and then we would drink, party, do some drugs, and yeah. And so, what happened is that place, that girl's house. When it comes to geography, my adopted parents lived probably half a mile away from a Target, and then behind that Target there was an apartment building, a low-income apartment building. And so my friend, the girl, her family lived in this low-income apartment building, which was huge. It was super big, tall. And so my group of friends outside of school, we would go to her apartment, her family's apartment in the low-income housing, and we would drink. I don't know where they got the alcohol. I don't know where. I have no idea where they got the alcohol from every time, but it was there. And so I would do that quite often. I would go there, I would drink, we'd do drugs. Most of the time it was marijuana, weed. We would get high, we would drink. I remember once there was a couple times that there were mushrooms, shrooms. Once or twice, I do remember that. I don't know where they got it, but there was coke. And I remember seeing a couple of people messing with powder. But yeah, so I hung out with that group of people outside of school, and then that was another one of my negative coping skills in high school. During that time, in high school, I can't get through my sentence. During that time in high school, when I hung out with those people in that low-income housing, drinking, smoking weed, there was a couple times to where I turned off my phone. So my adopted parents, if they called me, it wouldn't go through, and if they texted me, I wouldn't see it. So I remember one instance to where I went to go hang out with these friends. I got totally drunk. I got so drunk that night. I remember at one point that someone took, I don't know if they took a baseball bat or like a wooden stick, but they hit my knee like directly on, and it broke the stick or whatever they hit me with in half. So that specific night, I got super drunk. I at one point went to someone's bedroom. So I got super drunk. Back up. So I turned off my phone, so my adopted parents couldn't call me, and I wouldn't see their texts. I turned my phone off. I got super drunk. I got super high. I went to that girl's bedroom. Fell asleep. I fell asleep and blacked out in her bed. I slept throughout the whole rest of the night while everyone was partying. And then in the morning, that girl woke me up. In the morning, that girl woke me up. And was like, yo, you fell asleep in my bed. You need to go. Because my parents are coming home. Like, I don't know where her parents went at night, but they were never around. But that girl was like, you need to leave. And so that specific night, or in the morning, I got dressed. I left her apartment. And then I turned my phone on. And when I turned my phone on, I got like 15 missed calls. My adopted parents had called me a whole bunch of times. They had texted me. My adopted parents got so worried that they asked my uncle Greg, to call and text me. So I had like 15 missed calls from my adopted parents, from my uncle. I had texts from both of them, my adopted parents and my uncle. And so that morning, I turned on my phone, I left her apartment, I walked to the Target, which was a block away, and then when I was at the Target, I texted or called, I think it was my dad. I called or texted my adopted dad, and he picked me up at the Target, which was like a block away. Yeah. I remember strangely, or I don't know if this is my memory or if I'm making this up, but when I was at the Target, I remember not being fully clothed. Like I had pants on, I think I had my shoes, and then I had like a button up shirt that I did the buttons really messed up, so it wasn't like correct. But that's how he picked me up. And so that happened. So that was one of my negative coping skills, that I hung out with the wrong crowd and I was abusing alcohol and drugs. Another negative coping skill in high school. Another negative coping skill in high school. Where was I? Another negative coping skill in high school is I abused medication, prescription medication, and I'm going to combine abusing prescription medication with attempted suicides. There were several times to where I overdosed or tried to overdose on my. There were several times where I tried to overdose on my prescription medication in hopes that I would kill myself. That happened a couple times to where my adopted parents had to take me to the hospital. I remember one instance to where I had. There was one instance to where I had taken a whole bottle of prescription medication, and I don't know where my adopted parents were at this time, but I had taken a whole bottle of my prescription medication, and then I wrote a note and left it on the dinner table for my adopted parents. They came home, they read the note, and they were like, "Where the hell is Steven?" And what happened is I took the whole bottle of prescription medication, and then I hid under their bed and pretended to have ran away. And so they were looking for me, they were calling, texting. I think they drove around the neighborhood. Eventually, they called the police. The police came to the house. I think I crawled from under their bed, so I crawled up from under their bed, and then I walked downstairs, and I was like, "I'm here." And the police were like, "Okay." So the police were like, "He's not lost. He didn't run away. He's here." And the police and my adopted parents were like, "What the hell's going on?" And that's when I told them the truth, that I was like, I took a whole bottle of prescription medication. I tried to kill myself, and they took me to the hospital. And so, yeah, there was several times where it involved prescription medications, and I went to the hospital for a suicide attempt. And then I had stayed, during those times, I had like, and on multiple occasions, I had like week-long stays in the psych ward during high school. But yeah, so there was that negative coping skill, or not helpful coping skill, of suicide attempts in high school, and overdosing on prescription medication. Let's see, what else in high school? I mean, there was a lot that was going on. I attempted to run away. I'll mention that. I attempted to run away multiple times. I thought I would use that as a coping skill. I thought that if I ran away, my problems would disappear. There was one instance to where I stole I don't. You could say I borrowed, but I also stole. I stole my dad's adopted bike. So I stole his bike. I wrote a note that said I'm leaving. Bye. Put it on the table in the dinner on the dinner table, and then I stole my adopted dad's bike. I had my backpack. There was a knife in my backpack that I put in there, and I biked so far away. Anyone who knows Minnesota or can Google it, you can Google Bloomington. I biked from where my adopted parents lived in St. Paul. If you Google it, you can look up University in Lexington, the cross street, University in Lexington. I biked from there all the way to Bloomington, and then what happened is I left my adopted dad's bike behind like this business building in Bloomington, and then I started walking aimlessly. I remember being paranoid at that time and quite delusional that people were after me, that they were chasing me, that the government was after me. I thought people were trying to harm me, that they were trying to kill me. So I left my adopted dad's bike behind a business. I started walking aimlessly. It got to really late at night, maybe like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., maybe midnight. And I found a hotel in Bloomington. I hid in the hotel bathroom stall for like 2 hours. Eventually, the hotel management found me and they kicked me out of the hotel. The hotel didn't even ask my age. They didn't even ask what's going on. They were just like, you gotta leave. So they kicked me out, and I started walking again. And I was walking up. I went to the highway and was trying to hitchhike, and I was trying to pick up a ride on the highway at like 1 a.m. And then that's when a police car stopped, and they stopped and found me. I'm pretty sure this is what happened. There was one car that stopped, and they were gonna give me a ride. So they were gonna pick me up and drive me somewhere, but that person had used their phone to call someone, and then they drove away. So I'm pretty sure the person who was faking like they were going to give me a ride called the cops, and then the cops found me on the highway. And that state trooper that found me, they were like, how old are you? Where do you live? And do you have an ID? I gave them my ID, which was a student ID, I think, at the time. And they were like, oh, you're in high school. How old are you? And I told them, I think I was 16 or something at the time. And they were like, oh, you're 16. You shouldn't be out here. You shouldn't be hitchhiking. Where do your parents live? And I told them. And that state trooper drove me home. And they were like, hey, adopted mom and dad, I have your son. He was hitchhiking along the highway. Yeah. And so that happened a couple times. Ow. Oh. So that happened a couple times to where I ran away, hitchhiked, and the police found me and brought me back. That definitely is not a coping skill that people should use, running away from their problems. It never works. But yeah, so let's see, going over it. Negative coping skills I had in high school. Self-harm, cigarettes, drinking, partying, doing drugs with bad people or not so good influences, running away, self-medication, abusing prescription drugs, suicide attempts, hospitalizations, psych wards. Let's see. I guess one other one that I should mention in high school is I was low-key promiscuous. like, I was low-key sexually active in high school. How should I put it? I was sexually active to the point that I had flings with people outside of high school as well as other high school students. I'll mention high school students first, to where despite me being the weird, strange kid in high school, it was easy for me to get laid. A lot of people probably didn't think it happened, or they believed it happened, but it was pretty easy. I remember several jocks who were on the basketball team, football team, baseball team. Several jocks that I kind of experimented with or had sexual activities with. Several jocks that I had given hand jobs, blow jobs, slept with. We had sex in the locker room, in the shower, but there were several jocks that it happened with. The jocks were, of course, they thought they were really straight, so like they wanted to keep it a secret, so it kind of happened where people wouldn't notice or wouldn't find out. There was a couple of girls on the volleyball team that it happened with. There was a couple of other theater kids that I messed around with. So there was that, and then outside of high school, there was a couple kids or friends that I hung out with who I partied and drank alcohol with, and that I mentioned at the parties that I went to, a couple friends that I hung out with during that time that I kind of had sexual rendezvous with. But yeah, so that was probably another negative coping skill that I used in high school, that I was sexually active. So that happened. I don't think I used protection once in high school. I don't remember using it at all. Like, no one ever talked to us, or no one ever taught me. Even my adopted parents. I do not remember sitting down with my adopted parents and going over the sex talk, the birds and the bees. Like, it never came up. I think I learned it through porn. I think through a lot of porn I learned what sex was and how to go about it. But yeah, so in high school there was that. I used sex as a coping skill. Not a great thing to use when you're a teenager. But yeah. But yeah, so that was high school, guys. This is a 1-hour video so far, and all I've talked about was high school. Crazy. But yeah, so I had more negative coping skills and positive coping skills in high school, which led to a lot of problems. Which led to quite a few hospitalizations, psych ward visits, missing school, ditching school, parties, and just bad experiences. A lot of negative coping skills that did not help my mental health, that made the voices worse, the hallucinations worse, made the delusions, the mania, the depression, the paranoia worse. It just made my thought processing worse. Like, looking back now in high school, like, I did not think clearly. Like, I had a lot of disorganized thinking in high school. Like, I did a lot of pretending, to where I pretended to be alright. Like, I pretended that everything was okay. Like, I'm pretty sure my teachers were like, we see through. I can't talk. I'm pretty sure my teachers were like, we see through your crap. You're not well. But the other students, like I said, they were just like, this guy's crazy, this guy's weird, strange, and that's kind of as far as they went. But the adults around me were like, something's not all right. Like, you're not well. But that was high school. Let's go to college, why don't we? College and coping skills. I would say college and coping skills, it wasn't an improvement. It definitely was not an improvement. I wouldn't say it was worse, but it didn't improve. In college was when my schizophrenia, how I would say it, went from, in high school it was more like, oh my god, what's going on? I don't know. I'm not going to think about it. And then in college, my schizophrenia was like, we're going to mess up your life, and you better find out what's wrong, because if you don't, you're going to kill yourself. Like, that's the change that happened. So in college, I think it was the beginning of my sophomore year that I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And my symptoms were exponentially worse. I've talked about it in other videos, to where the auditory hallucinations in college were 24/7. There were several voices. Skylar was one of the voices in college I heard a lot. There was another one named Cheyenne. There was another one named Kevin. And there was a few others. But there was I heard voices 24/7 in college. And 99% of the time, the voices were very unhelpful. Freshman and sophomore year in college, the voices, they weren't nice. They definitely weren't nice. They started becoming more paranoid. They started out more like, why is that person staring at you? They're thinking bad about you. Look at how long they're staring at you. They must be thinking about what they're going to do or hurt you. You should walk away. You should leave. You shouldn't be here. They're probably trying to read your mind. They're trying to steal your thoughts. Like, the voices I was hearing freshman and sophomore year of college were a lot more paranoid, distressful, distrusting. Yeah, so that's what was going on there. Like, I would be hanging out with people, and the voices would be like, you shouldn't be hanging out with these people. They don't like you. They're just using you. They're gonna hurt you. You can't trust them. They don't really like you. They just think you're weird. And so that's kind of the stuff they were saying when I was hanging out with people. But yeah, so the auditory hallucinations were there. They were ramping up freshman and sophomore year of college, and then there was visual hallucinations that were ramping up quite a bit. I've talked about this too in other videos. I remember being in class while professors were giving lectures and seeing zombies tear apart and eat bodies, clowns running up and down aisles with machetes, zoo animals just walking around like tigers, lions, giraffes, polar bears. There was people, or I would say demons, I guess, who were in black cloaks, who were just staring at me. They would often be kind of standing in corners of the room or near the end of the aisles to where we were sitting and just staring at me. I remember seeing like the really dark black eyes, and they would make this stupid grin. And I'd be like, what the heck are you staring at me for? So there were those kind of visual hallucinations, freshman and sophomore year of college. During that time, I started having quite a bit of delusion problems, to where sophomore year of college, I started believing sophomore year of college that the CIA gave me a top secret mission at that time. I was getting I was using like newspapers and magazines and like articles on like Yahoo and like on different websites that I would print out, and like in those medias or whatever, like newspapers for example, I would take the newspaper, I would circle words and paragraphs and underline sentences that I was under the belief, the stupid fixed belief, that this sentence, this word means, this sentence or this word or this paragraph is a secret code from the CIA that is telling me I need to do X, Y, and Z to complete my mission. And so I would walk and take the bus, and I would go to these random places, and I would be like, oh, the secret message told me to come here to talk to this person, or maybe to watch this person and see what they're doing, take notes and write down what I see and hear. There was a couple times where I tried to mail things, so I got like packages and put random things in packages, and I got like, I don't know where I got the addresses from, but I would try to send random packages to random places, thinking that was part of what the top secret mission was about. So sophomore year of college, I had that really bad delusion. There was times where I had seen like signs, like street signs and billboards that would tell me to do certain things, and I would be halfway across town, and then I would be like, oh, the billboard told me to come here and do this. But there was that sophomore year of college that started happening. Sophomore year of college, when it comes to paranoia, when it comes to paranoia, that really happens kind of in freshman and sophomore year. I don't know how I did this. I really don't know how I got through it, but I studied abroad in South Africa during my first and second year of college. I remember being very paranoid in South Africa at a lot of points, to where I would go to school. So in South Africa, when I studied there, I studied at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. So we were in Port Elizabeth. We studied at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. I remember being paranoid a lot, to where I would walk different ways to school, and then I would walk to classes different ways, and I thought people were following me to class. So I rarely took the same way twice. And the same thing from going class to home. I would try to do different routes to throw off my followers, the people who were following me. So I was becoming paranoid in South Africa that people were following me, that they were going to kidnap me, that they were going to... I had become paranoid to one point in South Africa to where I thought aliens were going to kidnap me and put a tracker in my arm. I got that paranoid at one point. But yeah, I studied abroad in South Africa, and I don't know. I don't really understand how I got through that, despite being very ill, despite being schizophrenic. I don't know how I accomplished studying abroad in Port Elizabeth for 6 months. I don't know how I did it. But yeah. But coping skills. Side notes, in South Africa, there was a couple reasons why I could do it. I remember meeting a young woman named Tanya. I don't think she went to Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. I think she did. She was a student there, I think. But I met Tanya at a cafe one day. I was at the cafe on my computer. Tanya came down and sat down at my table, and she was like, "You've been here a couple hours. I just want to tell you that there's someone in that mall area. So the cafe was attached. So the cafe was attached to the mall, and there was like inside the mall there was an area where there was an ATM. But Tanya came down, sat at my table in the cafe, and was like, "You've been here a couple hours. I think there's someone watching you to see when you leave." And so Tanya sat down with me, and when she sat down with me, I think when she sat down with me, we were there another hour at least. But when that person noticed someone was with me, they left and they stopped watching me. But Tanya was a nice girl. From what I remember, I think she was half something, half something. Tanya was half South African and then half something else. She was a very, very beautiful, very beautiful girl. She had like long frizzy hair that kind of went all over. She was taller than me, actually. I'm 5'10". Tanya was probably 5'11", 6 feet. She was tall and slender. She enjoyed wearing sundresses. She was a cute girl. She was nice. I met her probably the first month I was in South Africa, and so Tanya was one of the reasons I think I was able to study abroad in South Africa. Tanya and I would walk to the beach, would spend some time in the ocean. We would go back to Tanya's place and hang out. We would eat together. Like, she was one of my closest friends there. After I left, after I was done studying abroad and came back to my actual university in Minnesota, me and Tanya stopped talking. Like, I don't know where she is. I don't know what she's doing, but yeah, I just remember she was one of the reasons why I was able to study abroad. But we got off topic again. I'm very sorry, guys. But yeah, so let's get back to it. Talking about coping skills in college. Oh my gosh. Where were we? I lost track. I know I was talking about symptoms in college as well. Where the heck was I? I'm so sorry, guys. I'm lost. I was talking about symptoms and people. But yeah, coping skills in college. So my schizophrenia was going absolutely nuts in college, sophomore year at least, freshman and sophomore year at least. Like I said, hallucinations were bad, auditory, visual, delusions were bad. Paranoia. I was talking about that. There was times freshman and sophomore year of college, even when I was studying in the States, when I was in Minnesota. So I went to St. Cloud State University for both my bachelor's and my master's degree. My bachelor's, during my sophomore year, when I was at St. Cloud State University, I remember being paranoid on campus at I'm going to call it SCSU. So at SCSU, St. Cloud State University, on campus, I was paranoid people were following me there too. So, like, I had a couple different hiding spots. I remember hiding at the bowling alley. So there was a bowling alley on campus. It was on the basement floor of one of the buildings called Atwood Memorial Center. So I would hide in the bowling alley in the way back corner, thinking no one could find me there, and that the people who were following me wouldn't find me there. So I remember hiding there. Ow, my leg. But yeah, I was very paranoid in sophomore year of college. But yeah, I had a couple hiding spots. Let's see, what else? In terms of symptoms, what else when it comes to when it was going exponentially worse? There was a lot. There definitely was a lot. I remember I had quite a bit of withdrawal, like social withdrawal. I had quite a lot of friends in college, people that I hung out with or tried to. In college, I I was one of the members of the Muslim Student Association. Okay. I was one of the members of the Muslim Student Association at St. Cloud State University. It started kind of in freshman and sophomore year of college, to where I started being part of the MSA, the Muslim Student Association. I started attending the SSA, which is the Somali Student Association. There's a couple of East African student associations that I was a part of. There was a couple other student associations as well. But I had quite a lot of people that I knew, that I talked to. I felt like people were interested in getting to know me in college. Again, I wasn't a popular person in college. Like, I wasn't one of the cool kids. I mean, there was quite a few of my friends who were quite pretty. Like, I guess you could say they were more of the pretty attractive crowd in college. So, like, everyone liked them. But overall, getting back to it, I had quite a lot of friends. I had a lot of associations for groups. So there was a lot of chances for me to hang out with people. What I'm saying is that when my schizophrenia became a lot worse sophomore year of college was when I started to withdraw socially, to where I would rather stay inside. I would rather stay at my apartment. I would rather not go out with people. And so I would try my best to socially withdraw. Except it never worked. It never did. Somehow people got me out of being alone. I remember attending a lot of different groups, events, whether it was Somali night, Nepal night. There was a lot of cultural events that I attended. I remember going downtown. There was a lot of bars downtown that I went out with people, drinking and partying and getting drunk. That happened, but yeah, it's just overall, my schizophrenia got so much worse in college. That's really what I'm saying. And when it comes to coping skills in college, because that's what we're talking about, I had a few more positive coping skills than compared to high school. So in college was when I started going to therapy. My therapist's name in college was Dr. Eggers. Dr. Eggers was the director, I think, of the counseling center at that time at St. Cloud State University. So Dr. Eggers would see me probably either once a week or once every 2 weeks. I forgot which one. But I remember seeing him often. So I utilized therapy as a coping skill starting sophomore year of college. I need a drink. That's what I need. So getting back to it. I utilized therapy in college sophomore year. Therapy, it didn't help or not help. In college, therapy allowed me to talk about what the heck was going on, but it didn't make me feel better. It could be that I just didn't utilize the coping skills my therapist was teaching me. It could have been I was just ignoring my therapist. I just was refusing to allow them to help me despite going to therapy, if that makes sense. But yeah, I started going to therapy in college. Medication. I don't remember taking medication in college. At least I don't remember doing it. But yeah, so there was therapy. I don't think there was medication. I hung out, had a lot of friends, so I guess you could say I used peer support in college. Let's see, in terms of friends in college, there was one guy named Hamza Dudgeon who was a pretty close friend of mine. We still talk once in a while today. He's on Facebook. I message him once in a while. Hamza Dudgeon, he was a part of the Muslim Student Association. At one point, he was the president of it, and I was the vice president. So, like, we had become close. We lived at the same apartment complex for a bit of time. Hamza had gotten married, was starting to have kids, and I would hang out at his house every couple days. But, like, Hamza Dudgeon was one friend of mine that I had who I could talk to. There was another guy named Asif, who was Bengali, he was from Bangladesh, I think, who I could talk to. So there's Hamza, there was Asif. Who else? There was a guy named Salman. I could talk to. There was a friend named Zainab Muhammad, who was a girl I knew, who I could talk to a little bit. There was someone named Wafia Omar, who I could talk to a little bit. So I had some friends who I could talk to during college. But in college, a lot of what happened is I would go downtown, go to the bars, and get drunk. There was a lot of times to where in college I would drink, get drunk, and pass out. I would attend parties at people's houses. But yeah, that was one of my biggest coping skills in college, was drinking and partying, which is not, again, it's not a helpful coping skill when you have schizophrenia. Not at all. In college, again, there was quite a bit of self-harm in college. There was several times to where I tried to kill myself in college. I remember at least one attempt to where I self-harmed in the car while parked at Lake George. So I cut my arm really badly. I was drinking heavily, and I started mixing alcohol with prescription drugs. I started mixing alcohol with prescription drugs while cutting myself in the car at like midnight at Lake George. And eventually, I don't know if I texted somebody or if someone just tracked my phone, and they called the police, and the police found me at Lake George, and they found me in my car really messed up, and they took me to the hospital. And then I spent like 2 weeks in the psych ward. So that happened in college. One of the biggest coping skills I had in college. In college, I was Muslim. So in college, I practiced Islam. I guess you could say I was Muslim or practiced Islam the majority of college, as well as my graduate degree, my master's. So I guess you could say I was Muslim for maybe 5 or 6 years. But anyways, in college, I would go to the mosque several times a week, probably at least once every day. I would go to the mosque every day. I would pray there. I would meet with people. I would sit down and talk to people. They would read Quran, the holy book, the Quran, to me. Out loud, they would read it so I could hear it. People would teach me about different things. When I was at the mosque, people would teach me about Prophet Muhammad and his teachings and his life and his companions. So, one of my coping skills during college was Islam and trying to practice and be a good Muslim. So that was one of my coping skills. It wasn't very good though. It didn't work. Because I was still drinking despite trying to be a good Muslim. I was still experimenting with drugs, tobacco, cigarettes, despite trying to be a good Muslim. I was sexually active, and yeah, I was sexually active despite trying to be religious. In college again, I had slept with women, guys. I had times I slept with non-binary folks, trans folks. So, like, in college, for the most part, if people asked, I would tell them I was pansexual. That's if they asked, but yeah. But yeah, so I slept around quite a bit in college, despite trying to be religious. So I tried to cope in college. I tried to cope with my schizophrenia in college by sleeping around. That didn't work. I had different partners. I remember Fartoon was someone who would make out in her car at night, and there were several times she tried to sleep with me. There were several one-offs, flings, booty calls in college. Times when I went to the bar, drank, got drunk, and went back to someone's house and slept with them. In college, this was probably junior year too. Sophomore and junior year for sure. I was so paranoid of going home to my apartment. Like, when I was at my apartment, I felt super unsafe. I thought there was microphones and cameras in the walls of my apartment. I thought government agencies were watching me and following me. I thought someone was trying to kill me at my apartment. And so I was so paranoid and delusional that, at least for a lot of my junior year, what I would do is I would meet people downtown at the bars. There's a few people on campus, other students, but what I would do is I would make a deal with people to where I would be like, I'll let you do X, Y, and Z, or if I sleep with you, if I let you do whatever you want to me, sex-wise, will you let me sleep at your place or on your couch? And so I would exchange, I guess you could say, I would exchange my body and let them do whatever they want. If I could sleep on their couch or at their house. And I did that because I felt unsafe at my house. I thought people were trying to kill me. So I was really paranoid and delusional, junior year at least. But yeah, so in terms of coping skills in college, there wasn't a lot of them. I mean, I had therapy, but that didn't work. There wasn't medication. I had a group of peers or friends that I could talk to, but I was so symptomatic. I was so paranoid and delusional. The voices were so bad that I just didn't trust. I didn't really trust any of my friends to tell them what the heck was going on. I'm pretty sure they knew that I was sick. I just don't think they knew. I don't think they knew how to handle it, or at least help me or support me. Yeah, I think it caught them off guard. They weren't prepared. They didn't have the necessary tools to know how to help me or support me. Let's see, what else in college? Coping skills. Coping skills in college. What else? I talked about the alcohol. I talked about the drugs, going to the bar. I talked about intimacy and sex and being promiscuous. I talked about being a hoe in college. I talked about at least having people around me, friends. I talked about hospitalizations, psych ward visits, coping skills in college. What else? There was, I had a student advisor who helped at least a little bit. Her name was Semya, Dr. Semya. I think she had a doctorate, so Dr. Semya, but she was my student advisor. I remember going to her office probably like once a week or twice a week and just talking to her about what was going on. I felt like I could open up to her a little bit about mentally my experiences, my symptoms, so she kind of was aware. There was a few times that Dr. Semya had given me money, and that's because in college, I was a full-time student and trying to work while being very, very psychotic. So I was a full-time student trying to work while being schizophrenic. Those three things don't mix very well. And on top of that, add being a full-time student, trying to work, being schizophrenic, and having very poor coping skills. You can imagine it doesn't end well. And so what would happen is I would have a job maybe for 2 months, and then I would quit or be fired. So money was how would you say it? Money was just in and out of my pocket. Like, there was times where I had money, and then there was times where I was broke. So like, there was times where I could feed myself and buy lunch and dinner, but there was also times to where I had no money, I was broke, and I would dig out of the trash on campus and grab a Subway cup and then go to Subway and fill it up with pop. So like, in Atwood Memorial Center, one of the buildings on campus, there was a Subway, there was a Pizza Hut, there was what was called the World of Wings, there was a couple of restaurants. So what I would do when I didn't have money, when I was broke, is I would dig in the trash, get one of the empty soda cups, and then I would go to that restaurant and fill it up with soda for free. There was times to where I would sexually do things in order for someone to give me money or pay or buy me food. But going back to it, Dr. Semya would give me money occasionally. Yeah, Dr. Semya was someone who I talked to. She kind of knew what was going on, and she would try to help me occasionally. So she, I guess, I don't know, she wasn't a coping skill, but she was someone who I leaned on for support. What else for coping skills in college? Senior year of college, we can talk about that. Senior year of college. Senior year of college was when I met my ex-wife, I think. I think that was it. So senior year of college, I think, was when I met my ex-wife. Her name's Lily. Lily is Indonesian. She's originally from Indonesia. That's where she was born. Lily is an amazing woman. She just had a kid, her first kid. So I hope she's doing well, and her kid's doing well. But I think it was senior year of college when I met her. My senior year of my bachelor's degree, I think. So me and Lily met via Facebook. We messaged each other for several months. We video called on Facebook several months. And then I decided when I got my bachelor's, I think when I got my bachelor's and graduated, I think that's when I flew. That's when I met Lily in Singapore. Then when me and Lily were in Singapore, we flew to Jakarta, Indonesia. That's what happened. I think, guys. It was a while ago, so I'm having trouble remembering all the details and the facts. So my apologies. But anyways, I met my ex-wife Lily, I think during senior year, so I graduated with my bachelor's, and then met my ex-wife, and then we went to Indonesia, we went to Jakarta. So I met her family in Jakarta, Indonesia. I started working, teaching English, and me and Lily, we got married in Jakarta, Indonesia. Yeah. And so that's where we're going to discuss coping skills now. So like you could see, college was not a good time for coping skills for me. I had other things on my mind I was dealing with, obviously. Yeah. So my ex-wife Lily. So I moved to Indonesia, and I did not tell Lily about my schizophrenia diagnosis on Facebook when we first knew each other. Lily, my ex-wife, found out about my schizophrenia diagnosis several months after. So in Indonesia, when we got married, I met her family. I still was practicing Islam. I still was Muslim. So in Indonesia, my schizophrenia, I would say I hid my schizophrenia pretty damn well. I hid being schizophrenic in Indonesia pretty damn well. I was still hearing voices. I was still hallucinating. I had moments of mania. I think I remember being quite paranoid. But when I was in Indonesia, when Lily and I were married, her family is quite devout. They're quite religious. So I prayed multiple times a day at the mosque. I was reading Quran. I was attending lectures, so like Islamic religious lectures every couple days. I would be with Lily's family quite often at their house. We would travel, visit different parts of Indonesia. So when we were living in Indonesia, I had quite a few coping skills. I had family, I had support, I had religion. Yeah, so there was that. There was no therapy, there was no medication. I was working, which was stressful. So we lived in Indonesia. I don't even think we lived in Indonesia for even a year. I think it was like 7 months or something. And what happened was, I quit my job because my schizophrenia went crazy again. I quit my job, and I told my ex-wife during that time that, we're moving to Thailand. And my ex-wife was like, why the hell would we move to Thailand? She was like, I don't understand. Long story short, she was like, okay, fine, let's move to Thailand. So, we moved from Indonesia to Thailand, and we were in Thailand for 4 or 5 months. We lived there. I taught English at a government school in Thailand for 4 or 5 months. And then I quit working there. And I was like, I'm paranoid. I'm manic. I'm delusional. The voices are telling me to kill myself. And so what happened is I quit my job at the government school. And I was like, I'm leaving Thailand. And so what happened was Lily, my ex-wife, flew back to Indonesia, lived with her family, and then I went from Thailand to the U.S., and I came back to the U.S. And I lived with my adopted parents for a little bit. And so there's that. And then I moved with my adopted parents for a little bit, and I remember my adopted parents. No, that was after. So my ex-wife Lily, she went from Thailand to Indonesia, and then I went from Thailand to the U.S., and I came back to St. Cloud, Minnesota, to where St. Cloud State University is, and I went for my graduate degree. Now, I don't know how or why I was like, I can get my master's. I was hella crazy. I was psychotic. I was out of my damn mind. But I was like, I'm going to get my master's degree. So, I enrolled in the master's program, and I started going to school again. And then that's when I helped Lily get a immigrant visa to come to the U.S., and Lily got her visa and green card, and she came to the U.S., and me and Lily lived in St. Cloud, Minnesota, while I was getting my master's. So during this time, my schizophrenia, I would say, was even worse than during my bachelor's. During my graduate degree, while I was a student at St. Cloud State University, while I was married to Lily and we were living together in St. Cloud, Minnesota, I was attending therapy at a place called Nystrom and Associates. I was taking medication. So there was that. So yeah, I was attending therapy, taking medication, but still my schizophrenia, well, in my graduate program, was off the chain. Sorry, I need to move again. Was off the chain. I was hearing voices like usual. I was hallucinating visually, auditory. My paranoia during my graduate degree got so bad that I started believing... Well, I started getting paranoid to the point that I thought my wife during that time, Lily, I thought she was poisoning my food that she was making. And so I would try everything, or I even didn't. I wouldn't eat the food she made me because I thought she was trying to poison me and kill me. I got that paranoid. I was delusional. During my graduate degree, I thought Lily was working with the government to not only read my mind and to steal my soul, but I thought she was trying to find out. I thought she was trying to find out about the top secret mission the CIA gave me. So I was delusional about that. During that time, Skylar, Cheyenne, and Kevin, the three major hallucinations, were very violent. During my graduate degree, they were violent, not only commanding that I hurt myself, but that I would hurt others. Yeah, so my schizophrenia during my graduate degree was really bad. I remember times during my master's that there's days, weeks that I don't even remember. I am 100% sure that I was manic to the point sometimes to where I had extreme energy for days, maybe a week, and then I would just collapse. Like, I had blackouts where I I didn't remember days or even a week to what I did. So there was that. But during my graduate degree, coping skills were non-existent. Even though I had therapy and medication and I had a loving wife, I had religion. I tried utilizing NAMI, and it's NAMI. NAMI is an organization that has mental health services, or not even services, but NAMI has several support groups that meet in person and online via Zoom, for example. But I had attended several in-person support groups that were for people who had schizophrenia. So I tried using that as a coping skill. At one point, I think I had tried to attend AA during my graduate degree as a coping skill. But yeah, so there was that during my graduate degree. But yeah. So what happened is me and Lily, we got a divorce. So I think what happened was me and Lily, after I graduated with my master's degree. I don't even know how the hell I graduated with my master's degree. Like, I had so many psychotic episodes in that 3 years of my master's. I had so many times, days and weeks I don't remember, yet I still graduated. I don't know if that means I'm smart or intelligent, but it happened. So, I graduated with my master's, and then me and Lily moved. Me and Lily moved from St. Cloud, Minnesota to St. Paul, Minnesota. And we lived in St. Paul, Minnesota for, I think, a year or two. I don't remember. But we moved to St. Paul, Minnesota. And I still was paranoid. I still thought she was poisoning me with her poison food. I thought she was trying to kill me. During that time, the voices were telling me not to trust her, to get a divorce. They were very violent. Like, I had several auditory hallucinations, voices, and even visual hallucinations that were trying to persuade me to kill myself in order to run away from Lily. So they would try to persuade me that if you leave Lily, if you divorce Lily, she's still going to try to find you, so you're better off trying to kill yourself. So they tried to do that, or persuade me to do that. But my schizophrenia got very bad, and me and Lily got a divorce. I don't know if part of it was my adopted parents. I mean, I remember my adopted parents, I don't know if they liked her. I don't know if they liked Lily or not, or if they approved. Yeah, I don't know if they were part of why I got a divorce from Lily, but I know for sure schizophrenia didn't help, and it was a big reason why we got a divorce. But yeah, so me and Lily got a divorce, right? We went our separate ways. I lived with my adopted parents, Jean and Darcy, that's their names. I lived with my adopted parents for a short time. After I got divorced, while I was getting divorced from Lily. What I can say is Lily was a nice girl. I mean, she was a great wife. She when it comes to religion, when it comes to Islam, Lily tried her best to fulfill the duties of a wife when it comes to the role of the wife in Islam. Lily tried to fulfill that role. She would cook, she would clean, she would try to satisfy me sexually, of course. Like, Lily herself was practicing Islam. She was very devout. So, she tried her best to be a good wife. I couldn't have asked for a better wife. I don't really think so. She tried her best. Looking back, I mean, I do think Lily loved me. I think she loved me. She tried to stick with me. Even when I couldn't hold down a job, Lily worked. So, there was times, I think, there was times when Lily worked at Walmart, and she would work 40 hours a week, and she would try to pay the bills. So, Lily tried to fulfill the roles of the wife. She tried to work. She tried to pay bills. She cooked. I'm pretty sure she wanted children. But, yeah, so we got a divorce. I lived with my adopted parents for a brief time, and then my adopted parents helped me buy a house in St. Paul, Minnesota. My adopted parents put down $20,000 for the down payment on the house, and we got it. They took our offer, and they approved it. It's a 2-hour video. Wow. So where was I? So my adopted parents helped me buy a house in St. Paul, Minnesota. I moved in. I lived in that house probably for 4 or 5 months. My adopted parents helped me fix it. They helped me fix the backyard, several windows, the yard. My adopted parents basically bought everything for the house in terms of furniture and appliances and everything to put in the house. They went above and beyond. My adopted parents bought everything for inside the house. They rented a U-Haul so they could put everything in the U-Haul and then drive it to the house and carry it inside. They did it. So I moved into this house, and that was after me and Lily got divorced. At the time when I lived in this house that my adopted parents helped me buy, my adopted brother who's not biological, his name is Jordan. Jordan, my adopted parents adopted as well. But anyways, my adopted brother lived with me off and on. My adopted parents would visit me off and on. I would visit them. During this time, I worked for Ramsey County as a child protective services agent. I think I worked for Ramsey County for almost a year. It was one of the longest jobs I've had for child protective services. That's how I paid for things. But what happened was my schizophrenia, like always. I was attending therapy. I was taking some medication. I had what's called an arms worker. An arms worker helps with daily living skills. When it comes to buying groceries, paying bills, they help you arms workers help you try to learn and incorporate and apply daily living skills in your life. So I had a therapist, a psychiatrist, an arms worker, and I think I even had a case manager at that time. The arms worker and therapist and case manager were through what's called the Wilder Foundation, which is, I know there's a Wilder Foundation in St. Paul, Minnesota. That's where I went. But anyways, I had those supports. I had my parents. I had my little brother, who was, I think, 16 or 17 at the time. I kind of was talking or had the phone number of a couple friends from college. So I had those supports. I had those coping skills. I had a few coping skills when it came to... I wasn't Muslim, actually, at that time. Once I moved into the house my adopted parents bought, I stopped being Muslim. I left Islam. I guess you could say I was an apostate, whatever you want. But I stopped practicing Islam, so I wasn't Muslim. So I didn't have religion as a coping skill. I didn't self-harm during that time, or during this time. I didn't self-harm, so there was that. That was good. But I did start drinking again, pretty heavily. I didn't do drugs, or I didn't abuse prescription drugs at that time. Really, what was happening was the voices got really bad again. I was getting paranoid again. So again, at the house that my adopted parents helped me buy, I started believing there's cameras and microphones in the walls, like I did in college at my apartment. So at this house, I thought I was being listened to, so I was scared all the time. I very, very near and close. I was so close to punching or using a hammer to hammer holes in the walls, but I never did. But I was paranoid about microphones and cameras in the walls. I thought people were listening in on my conversations, trying to read my mind. I got paranoid about my therapist and arms working case manager. I thought they were trying to steal my soul. I thought they were trying to do me harm. I thought they were trying to kill me. I started not eating or having trouble eating because I thought everything I was eating was poisoned. I stopped going to therapy, started drinking a lot. The voices got very violent, very suicidal. The voices, the hallucinations during the time when I was in this house started really, really commanding very heavily that I kill myself. I started impulsive spending to the point that my check from Ramsey County when I was a child protective agent, every check I would impulsively spend. I mean, I remember there was days and weeks that just were blackouts for me that would go by and I would be like, where the hell did my money go? I'm broke. And what would happen I would impulsively spend, I would black out, and then I slowly got more and more behind on the mortgage, and then soon enough I was 3-4 months behind on the mortgage. I was getting letters from the bank saying you were overdue, past due on the mortgage. This is the 3rd or 4th month. You need to pay us. I mean, my delusions at that time were pretty damn bad too. I refused to go to the hospital. I was under fixed beliefs. I mean, false beliefs. They weren't religious. Like, I didn't think I was religiously inspired or a prophet during that time. Like, I didn't have those kind of I didn't have religious delusions at that time. I was more delusional about everything else, honestly. Like, I refused to go to the hospital at that time because I thought doctors, I thought the social workers, I thought the nurses were going to use sedatives to knock me out so they could cut open my body and steal my organs. Like, I was that out of my mind during that time. But yeah, it got pretty bad. So what happened was I fell 3 or 4 months behind on my mortgage. I stopped talking to my parents, my brother. I stopped going to therapy. I cut off communication with my arms worker, my case manager. I stopped eating. I was very close to killing myself because of the voices, the hallucinations. And what happened was I sold the house. I need to plug in my computer soon. So I sold my house. I sold my house, or sold the house my adopted parents helped me buy. I sold the house and moved to Alaska. When I sold the house, I got about $25,000. I remember going to the office of the title company or whatever it is called and signing over the house, and then them giving me a check for like $25,000. So what happened is I applied for a job in Alaska with a company called Seaview Community Services, which is located in Seward, Alaska, which is about 2 hours away from Anchorage, Alaska. And so I sold the house. I got my $25,000. I packed my Jeep at that time with everything, and I drove from Minnesota to Alaska. I did not tell my adopted parents I sold the house until like 2 weeks after, when I emailed them. I was really messed up. I was really out of my mind. But so I drove from Minnesota to Alaska with all my stuff. When I was 10-15 miles away from the Alaska border, I got in a car accident. I lost everything. I drove my Jeep into a snowbank. I totaled the car and lost everything. I lost everything because I still needed to go to Alaska. So what I decided to do, because again, I was out of my damn mind, I packed as much as I could in my backpack, and I called a tow truck. I found a tow truck, and this was while I was in Canada, about 15-20 miles away from the Alaska border. I found a tow truck company that would tow my Jeep, and what they did is this driver put my Jeep on his tow truck, and this driver drove me into Alaska, dropped me off at a small little town inside Alaska, and then drove and took my Jeep back to Canada. So this tow truck driver dropped me off in Alaska, and all I had was my backpack with some clothes, my documentation for my new job, and I still had some money left over from $25,000 from selling the house. At this time, once I got into Alaska, I probably had like maybe $5,000-$10,000 left of the $25,000. I impulsively spent almost all of it. I'm about 95% sure that a lot of it went to food, went to hotels. I am pretty sure some of it went to escorts, strip clubs. Like, I stopped quite a bit. There was times when I drove from Minnesota to Alaska to where I would go to a hotel. I would pay for a room. I would get into the room, and then I would be like, something's wrong in this room. I think someone's listening in the walls. So I would be so paranoid. I would be like, there's someone in my walls of the hotel room. They're spying on me. They're listening in on me. They're watching me. And so I would leave that hotel. I didn't care about what I spent. And I would go to another hotel and pay for another hotel room. So that's one of the reasons why money went by so fast, is I would go to hotel and be very paranoid that someone's in the room with me and they're trying to kill me. And then I spent, of course, some money on escorts and went to strip clubs and food and everything. So, my schizophrenia was very bad while I traveled. I ended up in Alaska, like I said. So I went from this small little town in Alaska. I was able to get on a bus that went from that town to Anchorage, Alaska. I stayed in Anchorage, Alaska, probably a week. And then I booked a driver who would drive me from Anchorage, Alaska to Seward, Alaska. And then I started working in Seward, Alaska for Seaview Community Services. For Seaview Community Services, I was what's called a crisis counselor. So my job during that time was I would get calls from the hospital, the police, and the hospital, the police would say, this person is in crisis, they're going to kill themselves, they're going to harm themselves, please come here and do a crisis assessment. And I would do an assessment on that person to see if they're suicidal, to see if they're actually in crisis, and whether they need to stay in the hospital or be admitted long-term in the psych ward. So that was really my job. I also had my own individual clients I provided therapy to on a weekly basis. So that was really my job at CV Community Services. I stayed at CV Community Services for probably 6-7 months. During that time, I also helped in their what was their kind of addiction program, if you want to call it. So I met with addicts, people in recovery, several times a week, and provided support to them, therapy, provided different group sessions about different topics of how to cope and how to stay sober. So that was my job in Seward, Alaska. Now, when I was at CV Community Services, is where I met my most recent partner that I had been with. Her name is Liz. I met her at CV Community Services. Liz, she is one of a kind. I've never met a woman like her in my life, and I don't think I ever will. Liz is the most beautiful woman I've met, inside and out. Her personality is everything you would wish for. She's kind, she's compassionate, she's sincere, she's loving, caring. But yeah, so I met Liz at CV Community Services. We started dating, we started getting to know each other. It was during this time that me and Liz were in housing that CV Community Services had for us. Our apartments were across the hall from each other. So usually what would happen is Liz would come to my apartment, she would make some food, we would watch movies, and we got to know each other that way. I took her out to different restaurants, we would eat together, we would eat out and spend time together. And that's really how we got to know each other. We grew really close, I think really fast. And yeah, we started dating. I guess you could say we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We were partners. When it comes to coping skills in Seward, Alaska, when I worked for CV Community Services, I did have a therapist in Seward. I'm forgetting his name, but I had a therapist I would see once a week. I think I had medication. I started working out at a gym. And so there was those coping skills. Otherwise, and then there was Liz, who she was trying her best to provide me happiness and joy. What didn't help in Seward when I was working was I would go to the bar every night. I would drink, I would get drunk, I would stumble home, and I would pass out. I would go to work the next day with a very terrible headache. I was drinking very heavily. I started impulsively spending my check for Seaview, and within a week after receiving a check, I was broke. Yeah. I don't know how or why, but Liz still wasn't interested in getting to know me. Liz and I started dating, like I said, and Liz and I decided to move in together in a 2-bedroom apartment slash house. So we moved into an apartment that was more of, it wasn't a condo, it was more like a duplex. So the duplex had an apartment on one side and an apartment on the other. Me and Liz decided to move in together in one of the apartments in this duplex-like building. That's where things got quite serious. Quite serious. Like I said, Liz is special. She's unique. I'm never going to meet someone like her again. She has a gorgeous smile that lights up a room. Liz's mere presence when she walks into a room, you can tell that attention shifts and you feel the difference in the room. Like, people feel better. Like, that's Liz's personality and energy. Is she brightens up everything wherever she goes. That's one of the reasons why I fell in love with her. But yeah, me and Liz moved into this duplex together, and we started getting romantic, physically. Yeah. And so I was still going to therapy. I was still taking medication, still working out. Things were okay. But slowly but surely, my schizophrenia started taking a toll again. I started having mania episodes where I would black out for several days. I had continued impulsively spending to where my check disappeared, and because I blacked out for days, I would be like, where the hell did my check go? and because me and Liz were living together, because I was blacking out and my check was going missing because of me being stupid, I started not being able to help Liz with bills. It got to the point where Liz started paying the majority of the rent, majority of the groceries, the utilities, and that's where things started falling a little bit apart. I mean, we had a good group of friends that we would visit who lived across the street. We would play Dungeons and Dragons with them. We would go and watch movies with them. We would hang out with them. We would go out to eat with them. We spent Christmas together. At one point, me and Liz adopted one cat, and then also had 2 dogs, Cheech and Zelda, and then I think the cat Salem was the cat. So at one point we had 1 cat, 2 dogs, and me and Liz were living together. I still have so many memories of us living together in Seward. I remember the first Christmas we spent together, to where I must have bought Liz like 15 presents, and I remember when we went to our friend's house for Secret Santa, I gave Liz all of her presents, and she's like, why did you buy me all of this? This is too much. And the truth is because I loved her. I wanted to give her everything. I was willing to go to the ends of the earth with her. I mean, if I could, I would have gave her the stars and the moon, I swear. Like, she was perfect. She was an angel. I mean, she was everything I asked for and could want. But my schizophrenia made things difficult. So, because I could me and Liz moved to Anchorage, Alaska, which is about 2 hours away. So what happened was I got fired from Seaview Community Services and then found a job working for the city of Seward in their accounting department for their utilities, for the electric, the meters on your house. But I worked for the city of Seward as basically an accountant. I did that for a couple months. And then me and Liz looked for jobs in Anchorage, Alaska. Liz found a job working as a social worker in hospice. And I found a job working as a therapist at the Arc of Anchorage in Anchorage. So we moved to Anchorage, Alaska. We lived in a townhome. And we were probably in Anchorage, Alaska for at least a year. And we were together at that time. We moved in. We were boyfriend, girlfriend. We were partners, not only in Seward, but we continued in Anchorage, Alaska. Again, Liz was everything. I mean, in Anchorage, Alaska, things started falling apart. I worked for the Arc of Anchorage only for a couple months. I got fired. I lost job after job or got fired. I probably went through 4 or 5 jobs in the span of a year in Anchorage, Alaska. Like I said, every 3 months I quit or was fired. It got to the point, like I said, that Liz was paying rent every month. Liz was working as a social worker, and what would happen is Liz alone would pay for our rent, would pay for groceries, would pay for utilities. She would pay for my therapy, my medication. She paid for everything. She carried our relationship. And I was severely psychotic. I was sick. I was crazy. I wasn't coping at all. I was having manic episodes very frequently. I was going to the hospital frequently. The voices frequently had me wanting to kill myself. I was paranoid. I was delusional. And so things fell apart very easily. Not easily, but it was sooner or later I knew things were going to explode. And they did. Me and Liz lived in Anchorage, Alaska, for about a year, I think. Liz tried to be the best partner she could. Liz was caring, comforting. I remember I have a lot of memories and pictures and videos of us together. I mean, I still love her to this day, and I know we can't be together, and we're not even friends right now, or I don't even think we're friends anymore. I wish we were. I wish we would be friends again, but anyways, in Anchorage, Alaska, me and Liz were together. My schizophrenia was very, very bad. All my symptoms were crazy, going haywire. I was blacking out, I was manic, I was paranoid, I was hallucinating. I ended up going to the hospital so many times. She would take me to the ER, and it got too much for her. It didn't matter how many good times we had. It didn't matter how many times we snuggled on the couch and watched movies. It didn't matter how many date nights we had. It didn't matter how many times we went to the thrift store and just hung out and looked for bargain deals. It didn't matter how it didn't matter the fact we slept in the same bed for a year and slept next to each other. I mean, I still remember laying in bed watching her do crossword puzzles next to me. I still remember blowing raspberries on her stomach and making her laugh. I mean, there was moments that I wish I could relive again. Like, this is how comforting Liz was. Is the voices would get so bad. My hallucinations would get so bad that I would want to kill myself, and I would take the hottest bath I could possibly take. And Liz would come in the bathroom. She would kneel on the floor next to me, and she would wash my hair with shampoo, conditioner. She would rub my scalp. She would wash my back. And she would try to soothe me. She would... Liz was an angel. I mean, Liz was the only person that could quiet the voices. I mean, during the times I was paranoid, during the times I had psychotic episodes, like the times when I took the hottest bath I could because the voices were so loud, when Liz would wash my hair and wash my back, it would cause the voices to quiet down. I mean, that's what Liz's presence did for me when we were together. I remember going to movies with her, going to the mall. I remember buying her the cutest dresses. I mean, it didn't matter how many good memories we have. It really didn't. And that's because I wasn't coping. When Liz and I were together, whether in Seward or Anchorage, I wasn't coping. My behavior, my schizophrenia was causing Liz to be anxious and worry all the time. She always was anxious about how we would pay for bills because, again, she was the only one paying them. She was always worried about my safety, whether I was going to harm myself or kill myself. I mean, my schizophrenia was causing her to... My schizophrenia was bringing her down so much. It didn't matter how much she loved me or how much I loved her. My schizophrenia forced Liz to protect herself and to put herself first. I mean, Liz tried everything to help and support me, and it wasn't enough. I wasn't coping. I wasn't helping myself. I wasn't making the right choices. I wasn't being healthy. And so, one day, Liz, while we were in the hallway near the front door, she was like, "Hey, I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." And it killed me. It broke my heart. No lie. I remember all the times we would lay together and she would promise me and she would tell me, she would say, Gremlin, Bubby, she would say, Grem, I promise I'm not going anywhere. It's you and I forever. I promise I'm always going to be here. And those promises I still hear in my head. I still hear her voice saying, I'm not going anywhere. But we were in that hallway and she was like, Steven, I can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. And she ended things. And so what happened is she looked for a one-bedroom apartment in Anchorage when our lease was up at the townhome. So she moved into a one-bedroom. I moved into this crappy studio for low-income housing. And yeah, we broke up, and she agreed, and I agreed we'd still be friends. So we were friends for another, I think, 6 months while I was in Anchorage. I think I was with Liz the longest I had been with anyone. I think I was with her the longest. I think it was like 1.5 years or something like that, but Liz will always be the one that got away. She'll always be the one that got away. I mean, she's an angel. She's got the most pure heart I've ever met, or the most pure heart of anyone I've ever met. She's always trying to do the right thing. She's always trying to help. She's always trying to support other people, whether you're a stranger, a friend, family member. I mean, she does everything she can to make sure that your needs are met. And that's what she did for me. Like, it doesn't matter how many memories I have of us listening to country music, singing our favorite songs, listening to country music in car rides, and her looking my way and smiling, and her putting her hand on my leg and just feeling her hands and holding it. Doesn't matter how many times I remember us making dinner together in the kitchen, holding her in my arms. Doesn't matter how many times I told her I loved her. Like, because of my schizophrenia, I couldn't give her what she needed or deserved. Because of my schizophrenia, and because I was not able to cope, I wasn't listening to her. I wasn't aware of her needs, or I wasn't aware of what she needed from me. I definitely wasn't comforting her as I should have. I wasn't loving her the way that I should have. I wasn't listening to her the way I should have. I was a really bad partner. I mean, she deserved a partner that really lifted her up instead of bringing her down, and I was bringing her down. It just kills me knowing that I messed it up, and it's because of me. And so what happened is, like I said, she moved into the 1-bedroom apartment. I moved into a crappy studio, low-income housing, and then we had been friends for another 6 months. We talked almost every day on the phone. We texted. I would go to her 1-bedroom apartment and hang out with her. She would come to me, and we would, we would have street hot dogs and go out to eat and go to the mall or go see a movie. We'd take car rides. Like, we would still hang out, but it was different. Soon enough, Liz started dating a mutual friend or person. She started dating someone who we had worked together with at CV Community Services in Seward. So Liz started dating this other guy, and Liz would drive to Seward every couple weekends, and he would drive to Anchorage every couple weekends. But yeah, Liz started dating another guy, and I lived on my own, and I was single in this crappy studio in Anchorage, Alaska. I was on medication. I was in and out of therapy. I had a therapist, a Dr. Hagelum, I think his name was, who I saw occasionally. But within the span of 6 months, when I was living alone in low-income housing, I think within the 6-month span, I must have visited the emergency room at least 7-8 times. The voices got really bad, very violent. I was very suicidal. I was very paranoid, delusional, manic. I had moments of blackouts again. And so I made the decision to move from Anchorage, Alaska to St. Cloud, Minnesota, where I am now. So I moved back to Minnesota, and this was probably 5-6 months ago, or I think 5-6 months ago, I think. So I moved from Anchorage, Alaska to here, and I've been here ever since. Me and Liz stayed friends up until Christmas, or this past Christmas. So up until about 3 weeks ago, almost a month. Liz and I haven't talked since. Liz and I haven't talked since Christmas. No calls, no texts, no video calls. I've emailed, sent a Discord message. She hasn't replied to the Discord or email, and I get it. During Christmas, I experienced such a bad psychotic episode that I got so paranoid. That I accused all my friends of lying. I accused all my friends of wanting to hurt me. I got so delusional that I believed all my friends were cloned by the government and that the government sent their clones to trick me. I was so delusional that I believed that my friends' clones were trying to trick me into going to the hospital. So the hospital, the doctors, nurses, social workers, I believe that my friends' clones were tricking me to try to go to the hospital so the doctors and nurses could operate on me and steal my organs and my soul. That's how bad my psychotic episode got. I got very paranoid that I was being followed, that people were trying to kill me. The voices got very violent, and I stopped taking my meds. I stopped going to therapy, and I fell in such a dark place that I started believing my voices and my hallucinations, and I made a plan of how, when, and where to kill myself. And I was supposed to kill myself during Christmas, so I was experiencing this psychotic episode so badly that Liz, who we had been partners and we loved each other and were friends, and she set a boundary. She put her foot down, and she's like, I'm not calling or texting you, I'm not communicating with you until you go to the hospital, until you get help. And what happened? My schizophrenia was like, you're not listening to her, you're not going to the hospital. And so she hasn't communicated with me since Christmas. Yeah. And so what happened on Christmas? As this video suggests, I didn't kill myself on Christmas. And what's funny is, or not funny, but what's ironic is this video is 2 hours and 30 minutes and is probably going to be 3 hours, which shows you this video is probably proof that I'm manic right now. This video is probably proof that I'm having an episode right now. This video is probably proof that I'm very symptomatic, which if it is, it is, but yeah, so what happened during Christmas is the day I was supposed to kill myself. What happened was I broke down and cried like a baby in my shower. I broke down and cried. I collapsed. I was on the floor in my shower. And I prayed. I begged God to answer my prayers and to give me advice and to intervene and show me that He's listening. I'm 100% certain God did. God answered my prayers, and on Christmas, or the day I was going to kill myself, in the shower when I was crying like a baby and I prayed, I heard God. I heard His voice. And I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, that's proof. You're delusional. You're having a religious delusion. You're crazy. But God spoke to me. And I felt different. I felt strengthened, empowered. When I was in that shower, when I was crying like a baby on my knees, when I prayed, the voices went from being loud and violent and suicidal to whispers. The visual hallucinations, it was as if they backed away and were only on the peripheral of my vision. My paranoia got a lot less severe. So like I felt my paranoia kind of drift away, not completely, but it drifted away to where I didn't think as much that people were going to kill me. The delusion that people were watching me and that there was cameras and videos everywhere, I stopped having that delusion. At least I stopped believing in it. Like, I was like, oh no, that's really freaking crazy. That's false. So, like, for me, I'm 100% certain that I received a divine message, a divine answer. And so that's what happened. And since that day, since the day I was going to kill myself, and I prayed, things have been different. This video suggests things aren't different, because I've been on this tangent for almost 3 hours talking about coping skills and distracted and talking about everything else. But it's been different since that time, so it's been almost 2.5, 3 weeks. And over this 2.5, 3 weeks, I had felt stable. I had felt different. I was reading the Bible and the Book of Mormon every day. I was going to church every Sunday. I was meeting the missionaries weekly. I was praying multiple times a day, or have been praying multiple times a day. I've been texting and meeting people and having support that way. So things have been different. But even though things have been different, Liz still doesn't respond to my messages or anything. And it makes me really sad. Makes me really sad. It does. Makes me extremely sad. And the thing is, I know Liz deserves to be happy, and I want her to be happy. Like, she's with her new partner, who, I know her new partner. Her new partner is a great guy. He's a gentleman, he's sincere, he's loving, he's caring, he provides, he's mentally stable, he is able to work a job and stay at that job for a long time. So, like, Liz is with a great guy who loves her, who cares about her, and I want her to be with him and stay with him because I know she's happy. She's happy where she's at. She's comfortable. She feels loved. She feels listened to. She feels comforted. And those things I wasn't able to provide for her, partly because of my schizophrenia, but also partly because I was a terrible partner. I was a terrible boyfriend. I was making terrible decisions. Whether it was consciously, subconsciously, whether it was knowingly, I don't care. I had schizophrenia, but I just did not give her what she deserved from a partner. So I know she's happy and I want her to be happy, and so part of me is like, yes, she's where she needs to be. But part of me also just misses what we had, both when we were together and when we were just friends. I miss hearing her voice. I miss being able to ask her for advice. I just miss hearing her laugh and her stories. Like, when I'm down and I feel some type of way, just hearing Liz's voice and her laugh, and hearing her tell a stupid joke or a stupid story, or hearing her tell me about a time we spent together, it makes me feel better. When she tells me that she'll always be my friend and she cares about me, like, it lifts me up in spirit. I just wish we could still be friends. I do. I miss her terribly. I mean, over the past week, I've been kind of looking at photos and watching videos of times when we were just friends over the past 6-7 months and before, and I know I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the best friendship I could have. Like, she never judged me because I had schizophrenia. She never ever judged me. She was only caring, and she only wanted to help and support me. She never ever was like, you're crazy, you're out of your mind, you're sick. Like, she never did any of that. She always was just like, how can I help? How can I help you feel better? How can I help you make healthier choices? How can I be there for you? She was like, I might not understand, but I want to be able to help you. What can I do? I mean, she was that kind of person. And you don't find that kind of person everywhere. There's not a lot of those types of people in this world. That's how special she was. And I miss having that as a friend. I miss having that friendship. I do. And so, in terms of timeline, that's where we are now. I've been going to church. I've been reading the Bible and the Book of Mormon and praying every day and meeting missionaries. And what's funny or ironic is today, right now, as I record this video, this is the first time. I think this is the first manic episode, or this is the first time that I have felt a little unwell in the span of 3 weeks. I don't know if it's because of the delusion that's been bothering me all day. I don't know if that's the reason why I'm having these issues right now as I talk to you guys. But yeah. But Jesus Christ. God, I miss her so bad. Like, when I tell you guys that when you know you lost something that is irreplaceable, like, it hurts. It hurts a lot. Like, I know Liz is irreplaceable. Like, I don't think you guys understand how happy I got just receiving a text from her. Or just receiving one of those voice recording audio messages from her. It could be as simple as her telling me about her day. And when she sent me one of those audio recordings, it always made me smile. Like, that's how impactful she was as a friend. But, like I said, I know. Like, I know we haven't talked or communicated at all for 3.5, almost 4 weeks. I know she's happy with her job at the hospital, with her partner, and I know that when I'm in her life, I cause too much pain, and I'm too destructive when I'm in her life, so I know it's beneficial for her to stay away from me. I know that, but it's hard to accept that. It is. Well, but I have to accept that fact. But yeah, this video definitely does not show that I'm alright. I just realized that this video shows the opposite, that I'm probably not alright at all. That it's probably more than a delusion right now. I mean, yesterday I was having issues with a really, really bad visual hallucination, and then today I'm having issues with the delusion. I mean, I'm probably developing an episode right now, but I'm going to get through it. I know I'm going to get through it. Church is tomorrow, and I'm excited for church tomorrow. I'm very excited for church tomorrow. Like I said, yeah. I'm very excited for church tomorrow because I'll be with people. I'll be with people who I know who care, who are loving, who want to see me. I'm pretty sure church will make me feel better. But at the end of the day, after we've talked about coping skills, I know what I need to do. I know I need to, after I'm done with this video, I'm going to read some Bible, I'm going to read some Book of Mormon. I'm probably going to listen to some Christian music. I'm going to pray. And then I'm going to go to church tomorrow. And all that I know will definitely probably make me feel better. But yeah. I did tell you guys I was going to read something for you, didn't I? Oh yeah. So let's do that. Before my computer dies, let's do that. So, I wrote this today while I was delusional. It's called Coping While Knowing I Wasn't Enough for You. Other words, it's called Drinking and Smoking with Demons. So here we go. Sitting on this bar stool, lighting up my third or fourth cigarette in a row, waving the bartender over and asking for another shot of whiskey. Lost count how many I've had, not sure if I'm tipsy or a little bit drunk. I've been attempting to smoke and drink, praying I would forget about you. It is strange I suffer from loneliness despite being surrounded by strangers. I know it has been almost a year since we exchanged I love yous. You moved on and from what I have heard are happy. You are in a healthy, committed relationship with a gentleman, while I drink alone, blacken my lungs, and cope the best I can. It took a while for me to accept having my heart broken. I was starting to grow accustomed to feeling lonely. It was growing on me. I would have preferred to keep smoking and drinking alone. Sometimes fate gives you the middle finger. She introduces you to a stranger without giving you a heads up. I wasn't prepared at all. I was in the middle of lighting my fifth cigarette when this beautiful blonde bombshell sat down next to me. She didn't skip a beat and downed the shot I just ordered. My first thought was, what the hell? Ever since you left me stranded, I haven't had the energy to pick a fight. After she downed my shot and slammed it on the bar, she turned my way and started playing darts with my pain. She turned my way and started playing darts with my pain. So who broke whose heart? Did she break yours or did you break hers? For the first time in a while, I smiled and laughed a little bit. She replied, did I say something funny? I was nearly done with my fifth cigarette. I took a minute to think. I don't know you, but you seem like a friendly gal. When it comes to your question, I don't know. I think we broke each other's hearts. I made a lot of mistakes, but she could have been more understanding and forgiving. Maybe a little bit more patient and hopeful, but that was the past. I am not drinking to remember. I'm trying to forget. I would have thought my words would scare her away. Like I said, fate sometimes places a blessing right in front of you. In my case, I had purposely sent every call from fate to voicemail. She knew this was the only way to send me a message. Now, this gorgeous blonde bombshell stood 5'7", black high heels, and a red dress with a zipper in the back. I should probably introduce myself. My name is Skylar. I'm not normally this forward, but when I saw you, I couldn't help but tell you would need some company, even if you weren't aware of it. Believe me when I tell you, Skylar was out of my league. Her dress fit perfectly. Every one of her curves was visible. She had the perfect hourglass shape. Her blonde hair fell below her shoulders. She knew what she was doing. Dark red lipstick with a touch of foundation, despite her effort to distract or maybe attract. I couldn't help but see my old lady when I looked into Skylar's eyes. Memories of us browsing for bargain deals in thrift stores on weekends, when we would paint our fingernails together while relaxing on the couch. How she made me feel when we would wash How she made me feel when she would wash my hair while I took a bath. I couldn't stop thinking about how sweet her kisses were and how much she turned me on when she left bite marks on my neck. It was her smile and how her mere presence lit up a room. I felt safe when she held me in her arms. I would never forget how it felt when we laid in bed together as her head rested on my chest with her hands caressed. While her hands caressed my stomach, she would remind me as many times as I needed to hear, "Everything will be okay. I'm not going anywhere, I promise." My old lady was the most beautiful woman to walk this earth, both inside and out. I was caught in a trance. Skylar snapped her fingers a couple times. "Hey, I am right here. Where did you go? It was like you weren't even here. Are you going to introduce yourself? I am waiting." I lit my sixth cigarette. My name is Steven, and My name is Steven, as you have learned or deduced, I don't really want company. I'm drinking because I'm lonely. Skylar asked, "Can I have one if you don't mind?" I gave Skylar a cigarette and she used her own lighter. We both sat for a few minutes, didn't say a word to each other. I knew the question was coming despite me knowing I wasn't prepared. Skylar spoke up after finishing her cigarette. "So what happened? You aren't a bad-looking guy. You were quite handsome in my opinion. Cute curly hair, beautiful brown eyes. I can tell you aren't dumb. By the way you speak, I can tell you are smart. I know we all struggle with something, so what could be so scary about you that would force somebody to abandon you?" I was right. The question was coming and it was asked. I didn't want to answer right away. Honestly, I needed time to think. Should I be honest? If I'm truthful, will it scare my new friend away? Is it proper to tell someone you just met your deepest and darkest secret? While I was going back and forth from lying to being honest, I noticed the bartender looking my way. It was strange, like she was judging me. I didn't know why. All I was doing was talking to a stranger who not only stole my drink, but bummed a cigarette from me. My leg. I was confused. Not only was the bartender looking my way every few minutes like she was perplexed, but a few of the other patrons who were sitting nearby had started to give me what I would describe as "what the hell is wrong with you" eyes. Finally, after thinking what how to answer Skylar's question, I did. "Well, I am crazy. I hear voices and see things every damn day that nobody else hears or sees. I am manic a lot, have trouble with racing thoughts, don't sleep well, I am impulsive, I can feel really happy and have energy for days. Sometimes I'm paranoid or delusional, sometimes both. Oh, I forgot, sometimes I'm psychotic, don't forget that one. Sometimes I do things that make no sense at all. I read a street sign and believe I'm receiving a coded message from the CIA. Sometimes I hear voices that command me to do stupid stuff, like slash someone's tires or walk in front of a car and kill myself. On some occasions, I don't want to socialize, even take a shower. If I'm honest, this is why my old lady left me. I couldn't hold down a job. It was too stressful. I was in and out of the hospital. I was paranoid, and the voices I heard every day made it too hard to think straight. I wasn't listening to my old lady. I wasn't comforting her. She needed me, and I wasn't present. I loved her and still do, but I didn't prove it to her. That is why she left me. We tried to be friends, and I messed that up too. I almost killed myself. I refused to get help. I accused her of lying and being a clone. My old lady was forced to protect herself. We haven't called or texted for weeks. She wants nothing to do with me. This is why I'm drinking alone and didn't want company. I know I lost her, but that doesn't mean I don't miss her or love her. Jesus, I am rambling, aren't I? My apologies. I'm going to stop talking and now enjoy my cigarette. I knew it would scare her away. Ain't no way in hell any woman would hear what I said and think, he sounds like a good guy. I like him. Very much to my surprise and bewilderment, Skylar did not grab her purse and walk away or excuse herself. She stayed put and listened to every word I said. She smiled and ordered another shot. You sound like everybody that has ever lived. We all have problems. Some of us are better at hiding our weaknesses. Some of us are better at pretending we aren't struggling. From what I am hearing, you aren't afraid to admit your mistakes or hide who you are. What happened was a tragedy. It was wrong. I know it hurts, but sometimes the pain that hurts us helps us realize what we actually need. I admit you aren't coping well. You are trying to drink and smoke your sorrow away, and that isn't how it works. It won't go away just because you drown your feelings. Now I have an idea. I think it's a good one. You might not like it, but I think it is needed. How about we get out of here and go back to my place? I don't live far from here. What do you say, cowboy? Ordinarily, I would have been hesitant. I ain't that easy to impress. I don't think of myself as easy to get. But she made a good point. Maybe the best way to move on is to find someone new and see where it leads. Skylar was attractive. She had the body to prove it. Long, beautiful legs, amazing curves, the perfect waist. I could tell her booty was soft and it would take 2 hands to grab, breasts that could suffocate me, and wet but gentle lips that could kiss my pain away. I have been lonely for a while, and maybe the touch of a beautiful woman would help me feel better. Yet it didn't matter. Skylar was attractive, but my mind kept going back to what I was missing. I missed slowly undressing my old lady in our bedroom, sensually kissing and biting her thighs. I missed holding my old lady in my arms and whispering in her ear, "I will love you forever." I missed going out on date nights and sitting across from the most beautiful, intelligent woman I ever met. I missed cuddling on the couch together and blowing raspberries on her stomach. No matter how good of an argument Skylar made, I wasn't going to move from my chair. This is the moment I knew something was wrong. Not only was I aware of the bartender staring directly at me, despite her being on the other side of the bar serving drinks. Several other patrons were talking about me. I heard them clear as day. Who the hell is he talking to? He probably is drunk. We shouldn't worry about it. I am sure he will get his keys taken away and will take a taxi home. The bartender was walking my way with concern in every footstep she took. Skylar tried again to persuade me to go home with her. I'm getting tired, plus this place is getting pretty busy. How about we enjoy a bottle of wine at my place? It will be peaceful and quiet. I wouldn't mind having company. It might lead to something we both enjoy. I can change to something more comfortable, something you might like to see me in. And if I'm honest, I promise you won't regret what I do to you. It will be a night you always remember. My feet didn't move off my bar stool. My feet did move off my bar stool. I was thinking about it, going through with what she suggested. It was in this moment the bartender interrupted us. Hey, I have kept my eyes on you for a while now. I think you have had enough to drink. Some of the patrons and myself are a little concerned about you. Are you okay? I was surprised, concerned how and why. I was a bit perplexed. Skylar and I were just talking. My response was sincere. I don't follow. I am minding my own business. We are just talking. I don't see what the problem is. Maybe you can help me better understand what you mean. The bartender didn't hold back. She was straightforward, and I didn't mind. Who is we? You have been smoking and drinking alone for a couple hours. I'm the only person who you've interacted with. Are you okay? Do you need me to call someone so they can pick you up and take you home or to the hospital if needed? At this point, I was confused. The bartender just called me out. I looked over at Skylar, and she grabbed her purse and blew me a kiss. She asked me one last time, "Are you coming?" I looked into the bartender's eyes so she wouldn't be able to lie. Do you see her? Like the woman next to me, 5'7", long blonde hair, red dress, dark red lipstick. Now I know this sounds crazy, and like previously mentioned, I am crazy. My bartender was a little confused, but replied with no hesitation. I think you've had one too many. You are sitting alone. You haven't talked to anyone. You haven't talked to anybody, and no, I don't see a blonde woman in a red dress. I think I'm going to make a call. Wait here. Everyone has the type of moment that I will describe. Everyone has the type of moment that I will describe as the moment you knew you messed up. This was my moment. I looked to my right, and Skylar was leaning against the jukebox located near the front door. I knew something was wrong from the start. No way in hell she was real. Sure, the drinking and smoking wasn't helping, but now I could see clear as day. I looked one last time over at Skylar, and she was trying to find her favorite song. This time I saw her for who she was. She wasn't a blonde bombshell in a red dress. It was Psycho Skylar, who has been following me around for the past 15 years. Long black hair, shiny black latex leggings, and a black corset. She turned around and smiled a smile that I knew was evil. I grabbed my wallet and placed a $100 bill on the bar. As I rose from my seat, I remembered what God promised me while I cried on my knees in my shower, begging for Him to forgive me and intervene in my life. I started walking towards the door to leave when the bartender yelled from across the bar, "Why don't you wait a couple minutes? Help is on the way." Skylar, leaning against the jukebox, feeling herself with her breasts nearly popping out of her corset, asked, "Where are you going, honey? We aren't finished yet." I did the only thing a crazy schizophrenic like myself should do when faced with a dilemma like I was faced with. I put my trust in the Lord. As I started walking out, I spoke the following words out loud. "If you say the Lord is my refuge, and you make the Most High your dwelling, no harm will overtake you, no disaster will come near your tent. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent. Because He loves you, says the Lord, I will rescue Him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Skylar attempted to follow me, but the moment she was within arm's reach and heard my prayer, she froze and took several steps back. "This isn't the end. I wasn't finished with you. I promise we will meet again. I'm not going anywhere, darling." I knew a couple officers and maybe a couple EMTs were only a few minutes away. I didn't look back or respond to the evil that was attempting to tempt me. Instead, I continued praying to God. "Heavenly Father, ease my mind and comfort my heart, empower and strengthen my soul. I believe in Jesus Christ. He is my Savior. I believe in the power of the Holy Spirit. Send angels to protect me from evil. Forgive me for my transgressions. I seek forgiveness. Guide me as I move on and live my life. Whether my old lady wants to stay friends or wants nothing to do with me, I seek refuge under your shade and protection." I only lived a couple blocks away. Every step I took, I felt the wings of angels protecting me from any and all assaults. I laid down that night knowing tomorrow will be another day that I walk through the valley of death. I must continue to trust in the Lord. I might not be coping as best as I can, but I sure as hell am not taking a step back. My only way forward is to trust His guidance and follow in the footsteps of Christ. I do not fear tomorrow, for I know His mercy and love is all I need. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. So that is what I wrote while delusional today, most of the day. But yeah, this is a 3-hour video, and I didn't mean it to be 3 hours, and I doubt anyone's going to watch a video for 3 hours. I really doubt it. So, let's end on this note. I think this is the best note to end on, guys. I really think so. We've talked about a lot. We talked about my whole life. And I read a poem to you. And we've talked about me pushing away everyone and losing a lot of people in my life. And you guys know how I feel about losing the best friend I've ever frickin' had in my life. So what else could go wrong? What else could we talk about? Nothing. So yeah, this is what I'm going to end on. I really doubt Liz watches any of my videos anymore. I know in the beginning, I know when we were friends, even up to 2-3 months ago, Liz watched my videos. She would go to my blog on WordPress and read what I wrote every day. She would sometimes comment on different things I wrote, whether they were poetry, short stories, or just whatever. She would comment and stuff, but she doesn't do that anymore. She doesn't do that anymore because I am the most destructive, toxic force probably that she's had in her life. Yeah. And it sucks. It sucks knowing I did that to her. You know what sucks the most? What sucks the most is knowing I care so much about her as a friend, and knowing that I want her to be the happiest, luckiest, most loved person in the world, and knowing that I want her relationship with her new partner, who's a great guy, knowing that I want it to succeed, yet realizing that means she's never going to be in my life again, even as a friend. Like, knowing that feeling sucks so freaking bad. Like, low key, it freaking sucks. Yeah. But, yeah. I don't know what to say now. I'm out of words. Here's the thing. Over the past 2.5, 3 weeks, in all my videos, and even what I write on my WordPress, and what I've emailed to her, and texted her, and to a few other people, but especially to her, I've said that I'm in a better place. I've said I'm doing better. I've said that I have coping skills. I've said that faith has changed my life and that I'm healthy, but to see me make this video that is 3 hours and almost 10 minutes is telling me that there's definitely something that I'm missing. That I'm not covering my bases. That something's missing. Now, it could very well be that I'm just hitting a rough patch. It could very well be that God is testing me, and he's like, you've had a good 2.5, 3 weeks. I've shown you that I'm with you. I've shown you it's possible to get through your schizophrenia, but I'm going to give you a couple days to where you struggle so you can be like, what's going on? And maybe God's just testing me and reminding me that I need to keep my eyes and trust with him, because that's the only way through this roadblock or through this maze I found myself in. Maybe that's what's happening. I mean, it could be. My eyes. Smoke. Fuck. But yeah, what can I say is, I hope she forgives me. I hope she forgives me for everything I've done. I hope she forgives me for hurting her and being destructive in her life, and I hope she forgives me for bringing her down and hurting her and causing a lot of pain, because I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to do what I did. I didn't mean to mentally bring her down to the point that she felt unsafe. That is not my intention. That's never what I meant to do. Yet, that's what happened, so I can't take it back. Oh, fuck. But yeah, I think I'm going to end this video now. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys to see. Hopefully this is helpful to you guys to see what an episode is like. Because I'm 100% certain this 3-hour video is a great example of an episode of how someone can go from 0 to 100 real quick. And how they can jump from topic to topic and maybe be manic and maybe be delusional and maybe this and that. Like, this is a great example of what it comes to, what it's like to be have schizophrenia. Like, this is a perfect example of what it means to be schizophrenic for me, this video. But yeah, I'm going to end this video because I want to try to feel better. I'm going to turn on some Christian music and I'm going to try to... I'm going to pray and try to feel better. I'm sorry, guys, for the long video. I know it's been 3 hours. But yeah, like always, I know you're going to comment and reply. I know 100% I'll get through this. I know whether this is an episode or just a couple bad days, I know I'll get through this. I have my supports. I know what I need to trust. I know who I need to trust. I just need to carry that strength to get through it. And I know it's possible. I know I can do it. I have faith and hope. I know it's just a bad couple days. So I know I can do it, guys. But yeah, I'm going to end this video because otherwise it's going to make me feel worse. And yeah, I love you guys. I love everyone who watches, everyone who subscribes. Thank you for keeping it 100% real, and thank you for showing your love to me, despite me being out of my damn mind sometimes. But yeah, take care, guys. I love you guys. And yeah, take care. Peace and love, guys.